sponsored by Andy Harris for Congress. The Jimmy Mathis Show is brought to you by Bread and Circuses. This is Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com. The Jimmy Mathis Show starts now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Jimmy Mathis Show with you till 8 o'clock. Phone number 410-922-6680, 410-922-6680. The website, jimmymathisshow.com. You can also listen to the show live there. Get podcasts. We have videos of the program, all the show prep, jimmymathisshow.com. On Twitter, at Jimmy Mathis Show. Looking at Drudge, getting ready for the show. North Korea reveals that it will destroy its nuclear test site weeks before the Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump hold their historic meeting. It really is amazing that the left is continuing to double down on their wishes to get rid of this guy, via that be indictment, which they cannot do. Impeachment, they may impeach the guy. There's no way that they're going to get the 2/3 of votes necessary in the Senate to remove him. After, 16 months now of this Mueller investigation that's turned up in any meaningful way, absolutely nothing. We haven't heard the term ISIS since the beginning of the guy's term. Unemployment is down. Inflation is down. We've brought North Korea and South Korea together. We've moved the embassy to Jerusalem. But it is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very busy week. First of all, programming note, I want to thank Tyrone Keys and Ed Hale Jr. for sitting in here last week when I was out in Kentucky for the 144th running of the Kentucky Derby. We're going to talk a little Preakness in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll be joined from Mike Pons over at Country Life, one of the larger farms here in the state of Maryland. In full disclosure, they put together horse syndications, horse syndicates, where you could own a fractional part of a racehorse. And my wife and I did that many years ago, and it was a great life experience. And the Ponses are just the hub of the wheel here when it comes to the horse industry in Maryland. So they'll be joining us also, talking to some people over at Pimlico for the 143rd running of the Preakness Stakes, which will be next Saturday. I'll be live in studio for that. I may check it out a little bit earlier in the afternoon. So Pugh places the police commissioner, the Sousa, on paid suspension until federal charges are resolved. This came out earlier in the week. Reading from the Baltimore Sun, the Sousa defense attorney, Steve Silverman, said that the Sousas did not know there was a federal investigation into his tax filings until the charges were filed and wasn't given the chance to explain or mitigate the misfilings. This is going back to 2013, 2014, and 2015, where the police commissioner did not file his taxes. Not necessarily that he didn't pay any taxes. The commissioner was a state employee, so he was a W-2 employee, which means he had withholding and he was paying taxes. He didn't file his taxes for whatever reasons. Now, the point that the commissioner was making on this, we're going to walk through this for a second because I find this story really fascinating, and I want to take a little bit of a different take on it, and I also believe this is going to be disastrous for Catherine Pugh. After only a couple months ago firing Police Commissioner Kevin Davis resigned, we'll throw all that under the same umbrella, to replace Commissioner Davis with the Sousa. Who do you know, when have you heard of anybody that has not filed taxes for 3 years that does not have the IRS come after them? Because that's not what happened here. Keep in mind, the commissioner is still under federal investigation for who knows what. We don't know. There's a lot that we don't know, actually, in this story. We don't even know if he was in the arrears on his taxes. For all we know, don't know the guy's personal finances. He may have had enough deductions to offset whatever was being withheld via his W-2s where he didn't even know. Now, again, that's a totally separate thing. You still have to file your taxes. You got to do that. And the feds are coming after him, which indirectly mean that the feds are coming after the city. And I have a very simple question on this, which is why? Because the city of Baltimore has submitted to the federal government. Again, we're not talking about the IRS. These are federal charges, and there is an ongoing federal investigation. Now, again, you got to pay your taxes. You have to file your taxes. Nobody's questioning that. But when you look at everything that this city has gone through over the last 3 years, post Freddie Gray, at least post Freddie Gray is when it became national news, we have done everything that the feds have asked. With the consent decree, giving away the sovereignty of the BPD, the mayor fired the commissioner when the body count didn't go down. Again, I thought that was a mistake. We're going to come full circle into that in 1 second. What is the end game in all of this? Now, I said a couple months ago, and I catch a lot of flack for this, but people that have listened to me over the years, I have a lot of respect for Mayor Pugh. And I feel somewhat bad for her because I don't think she's been able to move forward on what she really wants to do with the city because she can't get out of the wake of the crime. And you can't consistently be having the body count where it is, and there's no accountability. There has to be a fall guy. So they go and they nix Commissioner Kevin Davis. And what I said at my old home was they replaced a good commissioner with another good commissioner. And keep in mind, the job of commissioner is an appointed one. It has to be approved by the city council, but it's not an elected position. And I remember listening to Daryl DeSouza and where he wanted to take the BPD, and basically I heard a regurgitation of what Kevin Davis was already doing. And I did not agree with Kevin Davis on everything, but getting officers out of the cruisers, beginning to stand up for his officers. He evolved on that. DeSouza actually was known within the ranks of being a cop's cop. And as we talked about a couple weeks, remember when Commissioner DeSouza, along with Mayor Pugh, attended the rap concert downtown where they were throwing the BPD under the bus, specifically the commissioner, apologizing for well over a century of injustices and blah, 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 blah. So my question here is simple. What are the feds mad about? At some level, there is professional courtesy. So if the worst thing that this guy did was not file his taxes, or let's say not pay his taxes, which he did pay something because he was W-2, so he had withholding. But let's say he's in the rears, whatever, okay? You got to pay your taxes. We're not questioning that. Disclaimer made. At this level, don't you think there would be some professional courtesy where the feds, I don't know, may let the IRS take the lead on this? And according to DeSouza, the first time he was aware that this was officially a problem was because of criminal charges that were being brought against him. Not because the IRS started sending little threatening letters saying, we got to work this out. The IRS did not garnish his wages. So the old adage of you can't take the politics out of politics, what is the point of all of this? To which I don't have the answer. But I do know one thing. The Sousa will never serve another day as Baltimore City Police Commissioner. You can take that to the bank. Now, the mayor probably won't fire him. And by the way, I don't think that this goes on very long. I think he probably resigns because he feels bad about mistakes he made in his personal life, is bringing a bad light to the city and the mayor and the department, and he cares and loves too much and he needs to walk away. Okay. I don't think this lasts past the end of the month, ladies and gentlemen. And who knows if we ever learn what these additional charges or what the additional investigation is and what the feds are really diving into and what the purpose of all this is. And we'll be talking to Ty Kelly, partner of Rifkin, Wiener, Livingston, after the next break, breaking all this down. Because there's a lot of things that just don't make sense here. And I think Mayor Pugh stood by his side for about a cup of coffee. And then she realized that that wasn't going to work. So they go ahead and they put the commissioner on a paid suspension while the federal investigation moves forward. And yet again, Baltimore is brought into the national conversation, not just Baltimore, but the BPD, in a very negative light. And I think, again, this is with only knowing the information at 30,000 feet. The mayor knows it at 30,000 feet. The commissioner knows it at 30,000 feet. Nobody really knows what the feds are investigating. Nobody knows. The Sousa, as far as he was concerned, the feds didn't even care that he wasn't filing his tax returns for the last 3 years. It was like the IRS didn't even contact me. First knowledge I had that this was a problem was when federal charges were brought against me, which is very unusual, ladies and gentlemen. So what you're seeing here, obviously, is not justice, it's communication. And there's a lot of different ways to communicate. This is the feds communicating with the city. And my question to the feds is, what more could the city do? We've already handed the entire BPD over to the feds via the consent decree. We've handed over local sovereignty. I mean, here's a commissioner, okay, that goes on stage with the mayor and continues to double down on the rhetoric that Anthony Batts had so many years ago when the problem is the BPD. The problem is the BPD. The problem is the BPD. We're the problem. Police are the problem. All 450,000 people living in the city, they're all angels right now. Problem is the police department. He does that publicly. And they're coming after him. And not just him. And that's what really struck me on this. They're coming after the mayor. They're coming after the city and the state. The question is why? What more do you want? I don't know any other way the city could submit to the feds when it comes to policing. And by the way, how's it working out? Body count's not going down. And the mayor has a real problem on her hand right now. Because you can't have 3 commissioners in one corner. It just doesn't look good. Just doesn't look good. Now, that's fine if you want Kevin Davis to be the fall guy and you know eventually he's going to be the sacrificial lamb. All right, I mean, look, politics is a dirty business. Learned that lesson not that long ago. But I would hold on to that ace in the hole. Did not see the value of doing that right now. But where the media is going to focus on this is the vetting process and how this guy wasn't vetted enough. And all the focus is going to be on these tax returns that weren't filed. And at the end of the day, nobody really cares about that. Or, as I'm talking through, kind of 1 minute, Seth, maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's an out. Maybe whatever the real investigation is into, what they're really looking for, this gives the commissioner the ability to, within reason, walk away gracefully. Now, I'm not going to speculate on exactly what the possible charges are, or what the investigation involves, because nobody knows. But at the end of the day, as indignant as the media may be on tax returns not being filed for the last 3 years, most people don't really care. Especially when you have a historically high murder rate right now in the city and a mass exodus of the population out of the city. People aren't really concerned about tax returns, especially when most people believe they're too high anyway. Now, again, you're going to be the top cop in Baltimore City. You got to pay your taxes. At the very least, you got to do is follow. But there is more going on here, obviously, than just that. And the way this has unraveled is suspicious at best. So we'll see. Ty Kelly joining the program after the 6:20 break here. You're listening to the Jimmy Mathis Show. Also, we'll be taking your phone calls, 410-WCBM 680, 410-922-6680. Follow me on Twitter at Jimmy Mathis Show. You can email me at the show's new website, jimmymathisshow.com. It is 6:22. You're listening to the Jimmy Mathis Show on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.